Hey guys, welcome back. Unpopular opinions in Pokemon number 5. I think it's number 5. We got a lot to get through here. There's some people that tend to list a lot all at once, so we're gonna move as quickly as possible. But still, feel free to leave some comments below if there's anything that really rustles your jimmies, or if you have anything to add, feel free to leave it down below. And every now and then, I'll add in the YouTube comments as unpopular opinions in Pokemon comments, as well as reading through the efour thread. Here we go. We have Shu, who says sealed booster boxes and product is boring to collect. I would have to agree. It's kind of neat to see it all in one spot, set up almost like a store. But at that point, are you really collecting the sealed product? I think a lot of people are just investing in the sealed product more than they're collecting it. But I'm sure there's a lot of people that like to actually collect it as well. I don't know. Myself, I'd prefer to have the all the contents that are possible to get from that sealed product, and I do save some stuff, but I don't really have any real attachment to the sealed product like I do my master sets. So to each their own. Here we go. We have Sacari. Again, if you guys haven't checked him out, youtube.com/Sacari, just like it says down here. He's the creator of the thread and a very cool dude on efour. Alright. First one here is EX Ruby and Sapphire, EX Sandstorm, and EX Dragon are some of the most, if not literally the most underrated and undervalued sets in the hobby. Holo rares from these sets are the biggest offenders. I would definitely agree. I think those are some of my favorite sets of all time. Yeah, I don't know. The era where early EX, where Nintendo took over, people seem to completely ignore it. Some really beautiful artwork. And the sets are just good overall. I don't know what to say. They're just overlooked. So probably an unpopular opinion, but I would have to entirely agree. Next up, he says, T17 has wings. This is not the highest price we will ever see, not even close. I predict a correction for this card's price is very likely, but the long-term price increase will blow that out of the water. T17 is the shy younger brother of base Charizard who always lives in his shadow, and everyone is only just noticing him now, and he's about to grow up. So this was in 2020. I don't know. I think at this point is when T17 really spiked. I can't remember exactly the date. This is May 2020, but at one point it just it was the hot thing, pun intended. And yeah, I don't know. I think everything is going to go up in value. Is T17 necessarily undervalued, especially after it jumped up in price? I would probably disagree. But yeah, I don't know. It certainly is the card of that era, I would say. That and the Lugia as well are two of the ones that stand out the most as the popular picks. So yeah, is it going to grow even more? Yeah. Is it the Charizard from that era? Yeah, probably. I guess it's a pretty easy comparison when they're both fire Pokemon and probably the most popular. Short of, I don't know. I would say that Lugia might be a more popular Pokemon than Typhlosion, but maybe we'd need to do a poll to figure that out. Alright, also, he says, now is a great time to sell, but an even better time to buy. I've been saying this for 3 to 4 weeks. Many cards will never be this low again. This is your last chance to buy them at this price. I would have and still do disagree with this. I think myself, I've made some pretty good decisions in this giant uptick where I just held off on buying a lot of the older expensive stuff that really jumped up in price. It's probably never going to go back to 2018 pricing by any means, but I think in 2020 and 2021, even now where stuff is starting to retrace, I think there's still lots of room for that to go back down. Not saying that it's going to go back down to the original price before the boom, but with the popularity of Pokemon right now, there's no way that level of interest is going to sustain itself. and when that leaves, a lot of the people that are expecting things to just keep going up in value, when people get burned and their card is now all of a sudden worth half of what they paid for it, there's going to be a lot of people exiting. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to get on to normal things in life, that are going outside and going to movies and traveling and everything else, that they're just not going to care about Pokemon anymore. So I think a lot of that stuff is going to come back down. If anything, I think the pandemic has shown people how cool the Pokemon hobby is. So there's going to be some people, of course, that stick around. The majority of which of new collectors or people that get in, from what I've seen, usually don't last for more than a year. And to be successful in the hobby, as people would deem success, mostly, more than anything else, requires time. Time spent in the hobby is generally the indicator that you're going to do well or succeed or excel in collecting. Even if, no matter what your budget, I guess that plays a huge role, but at the same time, time in the hobby is going to be better than nothing. You hear a lot of people say, like, oh, I missed out. I think that's one later on, so maybe we'll get back to that later. I missed out, and people are just lucky that they bought while it was cheap, but usually not the case. Alright, so Sacari again says, get ready for some big brain thought process. The funniest efour members are the most knowledgeable about Pokemon because it's impossible to make jokes about something you know nothing about. I would have to strongly agree. I think most people that, well, I guess there's only 3 likes, so I don't know if the likes are indicating that it's unpopular or that it's popular, but I would 100% agree with you on that one. We have a novel and a half here by Rip Guy Fox, which says, Watsy cards will decline in value sooner than you think, not tomorrow and not next year, but probably in 10 years. These cards are so valuable at the moment because those that grew up with them are spending most of their money right now, and once those people have finished their collections, the demand will plummet. Younger people will have much less incentive to spend the same amount of money on a product that they don't have feelings or nostalgia for. So there are no new buyers that keep the market alive, at least not at those astronomical prices. Fast forward a few decades and Watsy crowd is old or dead, but Pokemon will still be alive. What will be valuable then? You really think people will still care about Watsy Hitmonchan or some Typhlosion? I think that the remaining high-end collectors in 100 years will focus only on the top of the mountain. Watsy, Charizard, trophy cards, Illustrator, because those cards that high-end collectors from within and outside the hobby will care about in 100 years, even without the nostalgia of growing up with Pokemon. So I'm going to disagree with this. And there were some examples made in the thread about baseball and everything else. There's nothing that's going to change the fact that those were the first. And it's not like those Pokemon don't exist anymore. Like, kids aren't growing up with the original 151 or 250 Pokemon. It's still, they're still the originals, and even though the artwork might not keep up to some of these crazy alternate arts that we're getting now, they're still the originals, and they always will be. So I think they will hold value. There's baseball players that people collect because those were the first baseball cards, and even though you didn't grow up watching these players, they're still the grails of the hobby. And yes, the Illustrator and everything else, like trophy cards and stuff like that, they're still retained value just because of the history aspect, and same goes with the early sets. Over time, they're just going to become harder and harder to find. At a certain point, I mean, maybe most of it is preserved, and there might be a little bit less fall off in terms of loss, and, well, I guess there's always going to be loss and theft and accidentally getting thrown out and whatever. But Quachancy says, I don't like any large gold text based stamps, staff, T32, pre-release, etc. I don't know. I like the idea of having staff cards and stuff like that, but I would have to agree that I'd rather see the like the set symbol from some of the pre-release, the newer pre-release stuff, rather than just a gold stamp that is just kind of added on there as an afterthought. Ash says bilingual Executor TMB has been reprinted many times with the same exact art, so besides its obvious rarity in history, it has literally nothing else that makes it special. I don't know. This is, again, kind of getting back into that. The thing that makes it special is the fact that it's the original. No matter how many times you pay tribute to that by reprinting the artwork in like a special set with a certain different set symbol on it or whatever, it doesn't matter. It's like saying Evolution's Charizard makes base set Charizard any less special. It's always going to be the original Charizard. And no matter how many times they put that same artwork on t-shirts and cards and whatever, it's not going to change the fact that that was the original one. It's not like it's going to affect playability. So there's a little bit of concern more so in the Magic the Gathering area, where if a card is reprinted, yeah, it's going to hurt the value of the older ones a little bit. But at the same time, even those older first versions of those cards aren't going to get hurt too badly. And here, where there's nothing to do with playability, the original is still always the original, and everything else can eat a fat one. It's it shouldn't hurt the value. If anything, it's going to bring attention to the original as a tribute and make more people aware of it, especially if it's something that wasn't necessarily released in English, in an English set or in an English fashion in any way. People might see one and think back to it, or just maybe an affordable option for somebody that just really wants to see that artwork, sort of like Evolutions. Quichancy is back and says, I'm sorry to do this, SM Pratt, but your post reminded me of another unpopular opinion. I prefer the web Magikarp over University, which is pretty funny. And I think SM Pratt referred to the web Magikarp as the online community college version of the University Magikarp. And I'd have to agree. I mean, you can't... If we were just going by the look of it, yeah, the web is very cool. Gotta like the logo and the formatting. University is a little bit bland in comparison, but at the same time, the history behind the University Magikarp is why it's valuable and sought after. All right. Miguelito says, Flareon is the most adorable of the original evolutions. This has got to be a popular opinion because, I mean, he's the fluffiest. So I would say that most people would think that he's the most adorable. You got a spiky one that you don't necessarily want to touch, and a slimy one that's a Vaporeon. Sacari says, there is nothing wrong with picking a grass starter in any Pokemon game. Everyone makes mistakes. Well, I don't know if it's any... it just kind of reverses it and makes it not an unpopular opinion. Yeah, I don't know. I think the majority of the starters, my favorites are the grass ones, so I can't really speak to this. Quichancy says, we are already seeing people buying high-end 10s. Offer to pay a premium for stronger, cleaner PSA 10s. If BGS can up their Pokemon game, I wouldn't be surprised to see subgrades normalized for Pokemon cards. Yeah, subgrades are kind of nice, but then at the same time, it's weird because you would think that there would already be those subgrades in existence. It's weird that you can get subgrades or not subgrades on a BGS card to begin with, or a CGZ card, because they should be doing that work regardless, if that's how their grading system works, to give you that final grade. But maybe they can just skip over that effort. You would think that you'd be able to, at any point, be like, hey, I want to upgrade this to have the subgrades on it, and they would already have them logged. So I don't know. And then other things where you get the roadmap of where the damage is, and then it's different the next time when you get it regraded or whatever. I don't know. Grading is silly, in my opinion. I guess that's my unpopular opinion. Muck says, I wish Pokemon cards were bigger so I could appreciate the artwork more, but I also dislike jumbo cards because they're too big and bulky. sounds like a personal issue. Like you need something in between. I guess you could appreciate the artwork more if it's a full art Pokemon card, kind of like the alternate arts now. That would kind of be a bigger artwork without a bigger card. I think I solved your issue. Sacari says, my least favorite thing about EX series sets is the EX cards themselves. I love everything else about these sets. Yeah, I would say that that's definitely an unpopular opinion. I like the EX cards and I like the stuff within the set, the holos and everything else. Discord wanted to burn me alive for this one. Yeah, I would imagine. Especially a certain moderator. Quachancy. Oh my god, we got a paragraph and a half here. We're going to go through every one of them, but we'll try to make it relatively quick. Base set first edition Charizard is hilariously undervalued and will hit the 1 million mark before any trophy card. I would disagree with that. I think there's just too many of them. If you're thinking about holding on to a bunch of packs of something like Hidden Fates because you expect to go up in price, so are 10 other people, which means you may be disappointed by the percentage increase over time compared to other items. Casual collectors in 2003 never thought to themselves, I should hold on to a box or two of Skyridge for a decade. If they did, it wouldn't be 20k today. That is true. I think a lot of the people that are holding sealed product right now have very... they have the mentality that it's going to go up in price quick and eventually they're just going to open it or sell it and somebody else is going to open it. I think you're overestimating people's ability to keep sealed product long term. When they lose interest in everything else, it's we're already starting to see that, people dumping it when the price comes back down. Alright, Pop Report is almost meaningless price data point for any card released 2009 to 2016 and plenty before then. Yeah. Neo 9s and old 10s and old EX 10s are in a bubble, but will hit these prices at a stable rate regardless in time. Yeah, I guess you could say that about anything right now. With the price spike and now the retraces that are going on, everything will end up back up at that price, but it happened so quickly that there's no way that it's a lot of that stuff is going to sustain that, especially all the cards that are WotC, even first edition WotC. There's just so much of it that in a normal market, once we get back to a normal market and a kind of normal amount of collectors, it can't sustain those prices. There's just too much supply. The reason so many Japanese promos are cheap is because no one cares about them outside of efour. Yeah, I would have to agree. There's a lot of really obscure Japanese promos that most people don't even know about. It's kind of the same thing with Shadowless or anything else that's sort of like a little bit more of a niche market. Base set 4th print, another example, I guess. If there are, I don't know what number this is supposed to be. We got a Pikachu Heart Face 1000. PSH 7 plus copies of a card from 1999 that has been consistently graded over the years and reached a slope plateau that qualifies as older, rarer, meant or better when you consider overall demand. Yeah, probably. I don't know. We're going to see a lot. We're really going to see once the backlog of PSA and the other grading companies kind of comes through. I think you might be surprised with that. The vast majority of American collectors prefer lower grade or unlimited versions of the cards they want before considering the same card in Japanese. I would have to agree. Like myself, I would love to collect the Japanese cards as well, but there are so many English cards that it just ends up being that's enough of a challenge in my opinion. Although the Japanese exclusive stuff would be kind of the next thing I would go to before going to the cards in Japanese that I already have the English version of, if that makes sense. There's a disconnect with the print runs of modern sets and people buying seal product as an investment. Yes, but also at the same time, I think people seem to forget the fact that some of this modern stuff is extremely, extremely hard to pull. So when you have like a 1 in 600 pack chase card, It's not going to be the same as WotC, where you get a Charizard in almost every box, in more boxes than not, I guess I should say. I don't know how to that translates. So just that excess of product, depending on how it's treated in the future, to complete a set is much harder. To get a certain card, a certain chase card, is much harder, which would require more product. So if there's more product, I don't know. We'll see how that plays out. But I think the value there is in the fact that stuff is so damn hard to pull, especially in these modern sets, like the super modern sets, with the large set size and incredibly hard to pull specific secret rares and hypers and stuff like that. I think the population of the individual cards, the commons and uncommons and rares and stuff like that, yeah, the bulk is not going to appreciate as much as the older sets, but the harder to pull stuff is I think gonna hold its weight. Box breaks have negligible impact on pop report or card availability. When you watch someone open a box today from 2002, just remember 99% of those boxes were opened 2002 to 2003 already. That is true. Pop report, although I don't know, because most of the cards that were opened from 2002 to 2003 already also were not treated with the same care that someone is, opening that box now. So if you choose those higher grades, I mean, sure, if he's opening, if the person is opening one box, then it's not going to make a big difference. But if it's something that's hard to grade and all of a sudden there's 4 copies of the 10 instead of 3, like, obviously that can make a difference. But base set 2 is boring, but a chance to get English cards with Cosmos foil or hollow rather. Yeah, I would agree. It is boring. Legendary Collection was overhyped and overvalued for a time, but remains an incredible set. The reverse hollows make it far beyond a regular reprint set. Yeah, I would have to agree to an extent there. At the same time, I don't know. I just like new sets rather than reprints in general. Adding the reverses on there is a bonus. It makes it at least a little bit different, but still reprint set nonetheless. Kids who were born after the WotC era will still want WotC cards more than whatever is current most popular Pokemon. Yeah, I would agree. Those Pokemon have continued on and are still the original 151. Still get pumped back into all the modern stuff. So since hollows have become undesired due to awful hollow pattern and higher ultra rare pull rate, we should get rid of the normal hollows and have EX, or I think that's supposed to be other ultra rare, be 1 in 3 packs, thus replicating base jungle fossil. I would disagree. I think the hollows kind of play a nice role and are still actually pretty hard to get. There's some modern products that the hollows are harder to get than some of the ultra rares, like your GX or your Vs, just because you don't get that many. When you get that many ultra rares per box, you're not getting that many hollows. And if there's a lot of hollows in the set, like I remember Sword and Shield base with Marnie, you weren't even guaranteed to get one per box, but it was also playable. So there was like this lack of Marnies until they started putting them in other products in the like non-hollow form. In about 5 years, it'll be basically impossible to complete certain goals that are feasible today, such as Neo 9 Hollow set, if you are starting from scratch unless you have immense capital. Yeah, well, I think that's sort of the case with anything, especially in the higher grades. 97 Trophy Pikas would be much more appealing if art wasn't copied over. SSB, greater than 98 Pika. Yeah. I think anytime that the artwork is reused, especially in the same kind of category of card, it kind of takes away a little bit from it. Thane says, don't bother messaging me with what's the lowest you'll go, especially when I can see auto-rejected offers for half my listed price. I think there's this huge disconnect with people that are buying and selling on eBay. People get pissed off that people are trying to like offer lower amounts but just set the offer at what you're actually going to take. And I mean, it's customer service. It's something that comes with the territory. You're just going to have to deal with customers that are not necessarily right, but they say the customer is always right for a reason. If you don't like their offer, then just don't take it. There's no reason to be offended by it. You are essentially selling, so just you just got to get over it. Everyone talks about Gary putting a PSA card inside of a paint can shaker whenever the topic comes up. Not saying he didn't do it, but for it to be referenced so much, there should be some kind of documented proof rather than hearsay. That would actually be very cool to see. We'd have to find a loose PSA card that kind of moves around in the case, and then we'll find a paint shaker. I don't know if we'd have to make like a custom paint bucket to to hold the card case and then have it shake around. But yeah, I agree. I think that should happen. Someone make that a video. Marab, I guess, or Mr. Rob. Modern hyper rare cards feel better to pull than a lot of first edition vintage cards. I disagree. I mean, this is another thing where you have to kind of keep it in context of, you know, when the cards were first coming out, the premise was just, okay, it's got the Pokemon on it, you can recognize it, and then there's been this kind of like artwork and artist and flashiness creep over the years, where everything has to look new and exciting, so they try different stuff, and it gets a little bit more elaborate than it was first starting out. But you can't underrate the I guess the history and the significance behind that early artwork and early card style. Whew, alright, we got a big old list here. First edition base set Charizard is overrated, as the print runs are the main reason for its rarity. Yeah, I guess so. That's kind of like the point of the first edition now, right? Sticker Wonders Charizard is objectively best. I'd probably disagree. Not that it's a bad Charizard. It just probably wouldn't be my first pick. I don't even know what my first pick would be. The Hidden Fates Charizard GX has low pulls, but plain Charizard cards have better chance at increasing in value due to not being associated with the TCG specific gimmicks. I'd have to disagree with that. I don't know. Hard to pull. Hard to pull is definitely helps. Evolutions is an amazing set and undervalued for what it is. I don't know if what is this, 2020? I don't think it was undervalued in 2020. I mean, and it's not necessarily an amazing set. It does what it's supposed to, in the fact that it makes base set affordable. And I think that's pretty much it. Or if somebody feels like they want to open base set, then that's a good option for that. Alright, number 5. Mega Charizard Y. Looks like a natural evolution instead of being an edgy fanmon like Mega Charizard X. Yeah, I guess so. I kind of miss Megas. 5B, Mega Charizard Y is the best Charizard from form, period. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I would probably agree with this, because I think I like the Megas better than I do the Gigantamax and stuff. Number 6. Early EX, DP, and XY series are undervalued also. Yeah, I would agree, especially before the boom. Flashfire is shaping up to be the next set to be $100 a pack, which is insane for a relatively modern set. Yeah, well, when you make a set with its Charizard-y as Flashfire, that'll happen. I remember not wanting to buy a box of Flashfire because it was like $300. And yeah, ask me how that played out. Gen 6 in general has aged better than it had any right to. I don't know about if it had any right to. 5-band art isn't bad, but is far too overused and too smooth. I think that was sort of their plan with the 5-band art, is to keep those cards consistent. The smooth part, I don't know. I think Pokemon, for the most part, are supposed to be smooth. And anything that's similar to the Detective Pikachu realistic, where they start putting hair on Pokemon that you never thought really about having hair, gets a little awkward, more so than 5-band smooth mons. Alright, number 10. A Sword and Shield Shiny Charizard Secret Rare would eclipse the Hidden Fates one instantly. I don't think that happened. I would say the opposite of that happened, but I guess back in 2020, maybe that was a good prediction. That's all for now. Have fun tearing me apart. No, we will not do that. Alright, Steve the Magic Guy says that some modern sets will grow in value and popularity over the years, like Hidden Fates. Man, everyone's just really hard on the stonking Hidden Fates. I don't know. I think all modern sets will grow in value and popularity over the years. Especially this stuff here. Like, people are opening the current stuff like crazy. Is there going to be a callback to, like, oh, remember Sword and Shield, whatever? Probably. Hidden Fate's going to be popular in the future? Yeah, almost certainly. But, I mean, I don't think it's the only example. And I think people might be a little bit tunneled in on it more than they should be. Number 2, that a card that is the actual prize or trophy should carry a premium over an extra copy. I think maybe yes. I would kind of agree to this statement. Thing is, it's hard to track that unless it's one of the like named copies. It'd be cool though to go along with a prize or trophy card if it had the paperwork to go with it, to kind of show its origin, where it came from, or who won it, or whatever. I think that would be probably even add extra value in itself if you included that with the sale of a card. Millennium Nostalgia says, unpopular opinion, Pokemon Go missed the mark for what could have been the best thing to happen to esports and e-collectibles. Oh, excuse me. I think Pokemon Go did miss the mark. I think it was widely popular, crazy popular now, even at this point. But the initial hype for it was insane. The overall going and hunting Pokemon mechanic was 10 out of 10, awesome. But the gameplay, and I haven't played Go since I don't think there was any real changes made to Go while I was playing. But the fact that you couldn't have your team and actually like battle and train your Pokemon and Pokemon battle and stuff like that was a huge reason why I didn't keep playing it. Alright, T17 Baller 6969 says, stamp world promos, specifically top 32 champion equal trophy cards. Yeah, I guess you could say those are trophies. But at that point, is anything giving out to any player a trophy? Because there's participation medals or trophies. Muck says, stamps for the most part are boring and highly overrated. I would agree, unless they're really cool location and set specific stamps. I'm assuming that he's just referring to the like staff and whatever. Joshius says, here's my unpopular opinion. Pokemon cards are overrated. I don't like them. The game lost everything I loved about it when I used to play back in the early 2000s. EX and full arts are just graphic spam to me. I yearn for a simpler time. I own very few cards and I care very little about them. The only reason I have them is that when I buy collections, some tend to have a few cards and I haven't gotten around to selling them. That's why you only see me posting about pins, coins, figures, etc. Almost never cards. I was going to say that maybe it's weird that you're on a Pokemon card collector forum if you don't like the cards, but maybe there's just no other place for pin, coin, and figure collectors So you're stuck with us. Sorry. Metabee says Blastoise and Venusaur are both better than Charizard. I agree. Chopkins 1994 says Neo Discovery over Neo Revelation over Neo Genesis over Neo Destiny. I don't know if I have a certain order. I think the bigger sets are better, but I think that's just because there's more in them. I don't know if there's any. I don't know what my order is on the Neo sets. I'd have to actually look through each one of them to really make that decision. Shining Charizard art is super lackluster. I kind of disagree. I think the Shining Charizard is pretty cool. The Shining cards in general are nice and a cool gimmick that they did at the time. Red Sky says, honestly, the unpopular opinion is that while I buy lots of graded cards and think they are great standard in general, slab cards are more difficult to appreciate than a raw card. I would agree. The difference between a PSA 10, 9, 8 is pretty hard to spot, and especially hard to spot once the card is slabbed into a PSA or BGS case. You get the double shine from the card hollow surface as well as the plastic slab itself, and I think even PSA 6 plus cards can look amazing in the case. If you care about the grade on the case while it's on display, I think it would help a lot of people towards enjoying the collection more. So PSA 6 is really weird because a lot of the time it's a 6 because it's got like a binder ding or something like that, like a dent, which will usually automatically bring it down to a 6, but at the same time there's other 6s that look like someone rubbed them all over the sidewalk. So I think lower grades with any of the grading companies are you really got to look at the card. There's certain expectations from like the higher grades, but down in the 6 zone you really got to be got to keep your eyes open. Danza21 says 4th print base is just not worth all the fuss. I'll never understand it. It's like a completionist thing, I think, for the most part. At least that's what it is for me. I realize the cards are very similar and the dates at the bottom aren't a huge difference, but it's still cool that that they exist. Part of the history, again. I think that's why they're appreciated. Swarm says EX series over Whatsy. I don't know. I think I don't know, the E series. I just really like the E series, especially even the early Nintendo EX or E series, whatever you want to call it. Those early sets, just really like them. Very different. Really risky with that e-reader. I remember when the e-reader came out, I didn't even realize that the Pokemon cards could be scanned by them because I wasn't buying Pokemon cards at the time. But I remember seeing the e-reader and these packs of like NES games where you could like swipe the NES game and play it on your Game Boy, I guess. So I never ended up buying one or really wanting one for that reason, because I was just like, what? I just like play it on my NES. M30 says, not a fan of these new hyper rare and full art Japanese trophies. The art is boring, unappealing, and has no correlation to the tournament. I don't know. I think like the hyper rare full art Japanese trophies kind of are a sign of the era. So, I mean, maybe they could be something more correlated to the tournament itself. But at the same time, I think the newer style card going with the newer style or newer tournament kind of makes sense. KingBoo64 says Charizard shouldn't be expensive just because it's Charizard. Well, guess what? When something's popular, more people want it, and when more people want it, it becomes expensive because people will outbid each other, essentially. That's how the market works. Base set Blastoise had extremely boring art. Every Watsy Blastoise that came after is better. I would say that, I mean, most of the artwork got more effort put into it, especially the backgrounds, the earlier cards. As stuff or the TCG progressed and really took off, there's more that went into the artworks, even from the same artist. Candle, oh my god, we got 6 of them here. Candle is saying cards with signatures are in damaged condition. I would disagree, but I mean, It's up to the individual whether they want a signature on it or not. I personally would love to have some all wilds with signatures. That'd be absolutely insane, especially if I could get it signed by the artist in person. But some people want it on the card, some people want it on the case, some people don't want it at all. So it's really up for debate, and really up to the individual that's collecting or that wants to own the card. BGS is trash for grading Pokemon and is nothing but trouble. People being too heavily influenced by the thought of the mythical black label. Probs not unpopular on efour. Yeah, I think that plays a role in it, but I don't know. In 2020, 2021, when you don't have any other choice, you end up with a lot of stuff going to BGS and CGC regardless, where before the standard was sort of PSA or nothing. Why are you sending it to anywhere else other than that, unless it's a Charizard and it's got a shot at a 10? 3. Far from the first person in this thread to say this, but base set, jungle, and fossil are boring to look at collect. Again, this is just kind of looking at sets in the beginning where things were a lot more simple. Don't know what to tell you. Mint full foil reverse hollows are underrated. I would agree. These are very hard to find for my binders, especially the ones with a lot of foil showing and not necessarily like a color or ink on them. Like the colorless and the trainers from a lot of those sets just want to get scratched like crazy. But that's the thing, they're underrated. People don't really take care of them, so they get scratched up. Number 5, with regards to the holo rares, EX era stamped reverse holos, parallel holo are overrated. Pack holos are better. Yeah, I guess so. I kind of like the crosshatch and stuff like that too, but misprints that are not errors with the card's graphic design are worthless. I don't think you can say that. I mean, it could be worthless to you, but there's somebody out there that wants it, and it's up to them to really decide what the price is on it. Goldcrest says Charizard is kind of dumb looking. I'm not a Charizard fan, but I don't think he's dumb looking. Miracle Grow says English Shining Legends gets docked a whole tier S to A solely due to the fact that the best Shining card, Lugia, can't be pulled from packs and was made a promo instead. I don't know. Get the promo. I remember that promo was actually worth a decent amount when it came out because it was like semi-playable, which was kind of cool. Also cool that it was a promo, but did that come in? Was that in the ETB? I can't remember if that was in the ETB or in the premium collection. Let me know in the comments if you remember, so I don't have to look it up. KingBoo64 says Light Arcanine is vastly overrated and doesn't look that good. Why does everyone hate Light Arcanine? It's awesome. It's got the flowers in the background. He's doing like the weird flippy thing. Archive says 5-band's artwork, while not the most outstanding, gets a ton of flack when it should be directed towards the Pokemon Company for their design decisions. Sun and Moon era full arts, rainbow rares were a terrible decision artistically. Plain single color backgrounds with the same CGI Pokemon. 5-band showed they could make good full art cards back in the black-white era, i.e. Dark Explorers. They were put in a no-win situation and came out the big loser. I mean, I guess so. I don't think outside of like efour I've ever heard anyone like really hate on 5-band, and then these same people, or at least some of them, also were like, oh my god, look at these amazing rares, and guess what? They were 5-band art with rainbow around it. Discussions about investments in Pokemon are generally pointless because people are making fundamental assumptions about the hobby but not communicating it to one another. Predictions about the future are predicated on assumptions, and by not making it clear, people just go around in circles with one another. I guess so. I don't know. I think it's best to make your own decisions. The more you know about everything, the better. No one can really predict the future, and people are going to disagree on a lot of those points, but talk to people, see what they think, see what you think, go with your gut. Don't necessarily follow the leader. You don't have to. Just acquire some of that knowledge and make some decisions. Time in the market is better than pretending to be a guru or paying for some sort of guru advice, I guess. Right, Swarm says PSA over BGS over CGC. I would say that this is a popular opinion, and usually what people would do in terms of if they wanted their card to be more valuable. This is the order of operations. We saw this move around a little bit because of pricing and availability, certain shutdowns and everything else, and just too many people wanting to put plastic around their cards all at the same time. Now everyone and their dog is starting a grading company with whatever gimmick or label that they want to put on it, trying to hop on that that excess demand. I can almost guarantee that these grading companies are not expanding for all that free money, because they realize that the market is going to come back down to a normal state at some point, and they don't want to have to get rid of a building and God knows how many employees they would actually need to keep up with everything at the moment. Ash says, collectors here with a very valuable collection are not smarter, wiser, and better collectors than by any means. They just got lucky to have entered the hobby sooner than later. So, I mean, no, that's not how it works. I'm sorry if it hurts your feelings, but time in any hobby is going to outweigh luck of any kind. That's all it comes down to. There was more risk back then when things weren't worth anything. Why weren't you there buying the stuff? They were. So stick around and you will you'll be just fine. Nish says Charizard is a massively overrated Pokemon, and I have no idea why he's as popular as he is. He's a fire lizard, dude. Edgy fire lizard. People like that stuff. Also, the awful yellow borders on English cards need to go. Silver or black looks one. How many zeros we got here? 100,000% better. This sounds like a Japanese collector. And yeah, yellow borders are fine. Get out of here with that. Trying to convince people that your Japanese set cards are better than English. Oshad says English booster boxes should be more in line with the Japanese release style, price, number of total cards in the box. Not sure if this is actually an unpopular opinion or not. So I think that it's weird because you'd have people now, they don't want the small packs. They don't want the like smaller booster boxes and the smaller sets that are released almost too often. So I don't know if it's that we're accustomed to it, but we're in a really awkward spot now where the Japanese stuff always comes out beforehand, which is probably good for them on the Japanese side of things, because the English people will, the Western world will purchase those boxes as well because they come out before the English, and then they'll purchase English after that. I don't know. Smaller sets and everything else, and more often. It's weird. It almost seemed like they were going to do a global release on sets at one point, where they were trying to, like, it seemed like things were starting to line up more, which would make a lot of sense for international play. But yeah, I don't know what they must have their reasons for it. I guess also, like, where the Japanese sets are getting larger now, it gets awkward when there's multiple, like the two Japanese sets typically that are combined together ends up for one absolutely monster of a set in English. So I don't know. They're in a weird spot, but they're making it work, I guess. Poke Forever says Pokemon Go was the worst thing to happen to Pokemon, made it appeal to normies too much, and now it watered down the main games. This also caused a huge influx of people that aren't even interested in the current franchise and only are invested because of the nostalgia of casually playing a Pokemon game and collecting cards 15 to 20 years ago. It sounds pretty, I don't know who said it, I think it was SM Pratt. Sounds kind of gatekeepy. Yeah, I don't know. Just don't play Go or the Go games if you don't like them. The main games could use a little level of difficulty. I would agree. Um, little easy, but some of that is probably the fact that you were a kid when you played the original ones, and now it seems like you're walking all over the newer stuff. But I think it needs a kick up a notch. Like the Let's Go games, I haven't even played because they look absolutely terrible. Like you should be playing it on like one of those little leapfrog things for 3-year-olds. But I don't know. The main series games could use a difficulty boost. I think that was the best part of the games as a kid, because you'd have to ask your friends like, oh, where do I find this, and how do I get through this area? So there's got to be a little bit of difficulty in there, not just on rails. Don't even have to wild battle Pokemon. You just gotta walk through everything. YZ2428 says Nintendo can keep releasing new Pokemon games for the next 2 decades and keep to the same formula with no real upgrades, and each game would still be a bestseller each and every time. Yeah, unfortunately it would. Nintendo should be thinking about releasing and charging for digital versions of Pokemon cards and booster packs to go alongside the physical products. When they release, we might not be able to own the physical Pikachu Illustrator, but we can have a digital one. I mean, the future is VR, AR, so digital collection isn't too far-fetched. So, I mean, they already have the codes that you get. I think they do it right versus Magic or anything else. Keep the physical alive, but then also the fact that you get a booster pack within your booster pack to play the online game is nice. And even if you don't play the game, you can give the codes to someone, or you can sell the codes, especially if it's a newer set that just came out. Like, you can sell the codes to make a little bit back if you buy a booster box or something like that. So nice little kickback on the price of your booster box. Azoryu says the community celebrates plastic more than cards. I would have to agree. I don't know how many posts I've seen recently where someone's like, I have like $200. What do you have for slabs that I can buy? And it's like, what? There's no specifics about what card you want inside it. You just really want the plastic on the outside. Pretty unreal. Gengar Animal says, I've tried to like it, but cannot stand Fossil Dragonite. While I like Dragonite, I can't get myself to like a card in which it's saying, whoops, I farted. I mean, I think that might be your imagination that's getting away on you a little bit. And then, like, is the Gengar here farting too? What? OMG Misty. Hopefully that's not the Misty that was around before. I'm glad print run numbers aren't publicly available. With everything becoming so financial and analytical, I think a key unknown piece of information helps keep the market interesting. Yeah, I sort of agree. I think it'd be nice to see the numbers, because I'd just be interested in actually like calculating how many copies of something was potentially printed. If you look at like pull rates and then you compare that to the numbers to see to compare the old and new stuff, because I think with the new stuff people are underestimating the fact that chase cards are so hard to pull. And only getting harder to pull when they put that many secret rares and hyper rares and everything else in the set. Ben Jones says, I still haven't gotten round to liking any of the Pokemon designs after the first 151. I want to, I really do. It sounds like you're forever a Gen 1er. Sorry about that. Sacari, you're back. He says, a specific reverse holo card has similar or worse pull rates compared to secret hyper rares. So, when I first read this, you gotta be careful here. The wording, it's not a specific secret or hyper rare. He's just saying a secret rare or hyper rare in general. And this is sort of the same thing with the holos in modern sets, because you're not guaranteed to get one of each holo. It might be like 3 boxes for some, like 1 in 3 boxes for like a Marnie. It's at least 1 in 2, I would think. So he's got some examples here. And I didn't really think of this in terms of the reverse holos, but it's certainly the case. And it would be the same thing with some of the baby shinies from like Shining Fates, where there's so many baby shinies that to open the entire set would be absolutely impossible. and no one would ever want to spend the money to do it. So I think there's they're a little undervalued, even though people are like, oh my god, look at shiny fates, there's so much of it, it's printed into oblivion. Alright, his example here, we have a reverse holo Pikachu from Evolutions is 1 in 83 packs, or 2.3 booster boxes. Burning Shadows reverse Pikachu 1 in 135 packs, or 3.75 booster boxes. A reverse holo Pikachu from Unified Minds is 1 in 219 packs, or 6.08 booster boxes. Yeah, so here where you're getting into the friggin' craziness that is the late Sun and Moon, and now some of the Sword and Shield sets. Like, the amount of product that you'd have to open to complete any of those sets is just an impossible feat. Tyrone Biggums says, I have lots of unpopular opinions, but I'll share a few. That's 8. That's not a few. Get out of here. I can't stand people who want perfect cards. The people out there with OCD who can't stand a single issue with a card need to be locked up in a psych ward. Yeah, I don't know. There's a certain point where the card, if it looks good enough for me, and I don't care because it's going in my binder. So something like a PSA 8 is like my cream of the crop optimal card, because anything beyond that I feel like is just kind of a waste. Someone else that's gonna appreciate that, and one less little white speck or something can enjoy it more than I do. The current Pokemon TCG market is in a bubble thanks to Corona. Logistics issues are shooting prices up. The bubble will pop when things go back to normal. So I don't think it's necessarily all to blame on logistics. I think it's just more so everyone's interested in Pokemon at the moment. We can claim that it's scalpers, but it's not scalpers. It's the fact that everyone and their dog is into Pokemon at the moment, and where everyone's under the impression that things can only go up in value. People are jumping at it even more. You got the people that are collectors and not necessarily flipping that are saying that they beat the scalpers, and they're going to take their shopping cart and they're going to fill it with product. So when everyone's doing that, there's just not going to be enough product. So I'm sure there was some logistics and shutdowns and stuff that they had to accommodate at the printing end and the distribution end that messed things up a little bit. But I think it's more to do with just the insane amount of demand currently. People inside, whatever you want to blame it on. Some adults who are into Pokemon are very weird people. The kids I don't mind, since Pokemon is made for kids, but some of these adults I just shake my head since they are mentally stuck at 5 years old. Yeah, I mean, you gotta be a little bit odd, right, to be a Pokemon collector. So you see a lot of interesting people. The Pokedex cut from Sword and Shield wasn't that bad. Pokemon has been bloated with so many filler creatures that is bound to happen at some point. They don't need all 5 Pidgey and Rattata clones in every game. So, as we saw, this was not the case. It's because they wanted to add them in later on. They probably should have just said that to begin with, and there wouldn't have been any outrage from the fans. Just say, like, yeah, they're going to be added into the game, instead of making up some BS that they were trying to balance. They weren't balancing. They were going to make DLC and other ways that the Pokemon were introduced. Number 5, PSA and Beckett are legal scams. People who work there have no industry experience and damage their staff with no regard. Not only do I not comprehend how they are still in business, but why people pay thousands of dollars for their opinions when their opinions are mostly as credible as a rando off the street. I kind of have to agree. I would trust someone's opinion that's just been in the Pokemon collecting scene for an extended amount of time, more than I would sending in to any grading company. You got to remember that these are employees that are probably making minimum wage or slightly above that, which is nothing wrong with that. But also they probably have quotas where they have to get through a certain number of cards. So there is definitely a possibility that they're going to damage your stuff. Not to mention all the sketchy stuff that goes on with PSA and the cards that were trimmed. We got Beckett giving out black labels to their friends and former employees. So like, there's just a lot of sketchy area where they can do stuff that is not great. We don't have CGC listed there, but we can get into how they like to grade stolen cards. There's always going to be some shady stuff going on behind the scenes there, where you have that much money getting pumped into it. Again, there's no reason to get your stuff graded unless you're going to resell it and you need that extra value, or you think you can make extra money off of it for that reason. Even then, you have to be careful, especially now where the market's probably going to cool off, and by the time you get your card back, it could be worth less graded when you receive it as to what it was raw before you sent it in. I made a nice little meme about that. Alright, number 6. Gold and Silver was the peak of the franchise. They will never make a game with that much effort ever again. Even Gold and Silver got cut short and could have been a bigger game. Any new game or remake will always fall short, including future Johto remakes. HGSS was okay though. Yeah, I don't know. They all have their own sort of charm, although I would like to see a lot more go into like a future main series game. Number 7, the Let's Go series was an insult to the original 3 games along with Fire Red Leaf Green. The game wasn't for casuals like they claim. It was an experiment to see how much stuff they can cut out and still sell a Pokemon game. Yeah, to an extent. I think my biggest problem with the Let's Go stuff was the fact that there's like, you're not even Pokemon battling. It's like, it should have been a key component. Number 8, playing the Pokemon TCG kind of sucks. It's decent value and that it's cheap, but it's lacking in terms of strategy. I would disagree. I don't think you played it enough to realize it. Yes, like anything, you get into like, if you're going to play at the highest tier, you're going to have these meta decks that are give you this like best possible chance at a win. But that's like anything, like any card game. It's gonna get into that. Rip Guy Fox is back and says cards from the EX era have the best layout of all time. Unpopular opinion, because most people seem to prefer the card layout from the original Golden Era. I don't know. I think I like E-Series best. Just because the border was so different. It seems like, I don't know. I don't know if it's because it's so different or I actually like it. I think it's risky. I think the e-reader is a cool thing that kind of failed. Kind of like the Virtual Boy. It's like it's terrible, maybe in a sense, but also at the same time, it's like so terrible that I like it. Lucky Slevin says Pokemon Go is fun and not just for casuals. Okay, disagree. Pokemon Stadium is a top 3 Pokemon game all time. Pokemon Stadium was absolutely awesome. I would love to see a Pokemon Stadium with VR. I think it would be the perfect game for VR because you're standing still. You'd have like crazy effects and stuff going on. Give us Pokemon Stadium VR, please. That would be absolutely sick. I think that's the only reason that you'd really have a Pokemon Stadium, because now you can just online battle within the games themselves. So Pokemon Stadium no longer makes a whole lot of sense. The Pokemon TCG is not fun to play. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a much better game to play in terms of the game itself. I don't know a whole lot about Yu-Gi-Oh! In terms of gameplay, but I think I disagree. Like Yu-Gi-Oh! Has a lot of like really busted combos that are just like game ender stuff. Pokemon TCG is fun to play, but is Pokemon TCG better than Magic? Maybe not. I would say it's close. Yu-Gi-Oh! Again, I don't have enough to say for sure that it's not better than Pokemon TCG, but I have a pretty good feeling that it's not. That might just be a Yu-Gi-Oh! Fanboy approach. Parker, Mr. Parker says trophy cards shouldn't be bought. I mean, that's really up to the owner of the trophy card. If you want a trophy card and someone wants to give you an amount of money that you want to sell it for, then by all means go to town. Sometimes that can be a life-changing amount of money, and maybe the card doesn't mean that much to them. I think there was some discussion after this about even the video game champions get trophy cards. So to somebody that only plays the video game, maybe the trading card doesn't mean all that much to them, and they'd rather have the money. Maybe it pays for their trip, whatever. Or later on, it's worth a whole lot, and You know, to each their own. They also get trophies, actual trophies. So I think, as was mentioned, a lot of people would rather just keep the trophy and maybe they sell a card. Azul says people should be able to make a profit off of swirl hollows if people can make a profit off the negligible differences between a PSA 9 and a PSA 10. I would agree. I mean, if there's a market for swirls and errors that are obscure and maybe don't mean anything to one person, let the market decide what it's worth to somebody else. If you want to sell it as a swirly whirly, do it. Go to town. Alright, Poke Forever says Gen 1 games were buggy garbage and the only reason people still like them is because of nostalgia. Only Gens 2 through 5 were the only good generations, with the Game Boy Advance and DS era games being the best, with the best games being Black and White 2 and Heart Gold Soul Silver. Also, Gen 3 had the best Pokemon designs. This guy really hates new and old stuff. The Gen 1 games were not that buggy. I don't know. I haven't played them recently, but I can tell you that it wasn't game-breakingly buggy to the point that I didn't want to play them growing up. Shadow Lugia says people should be able to list their cards for whatever prices they want. I agree. In an ideal world, buyers who aren't interested at that price or don't want to make an offer should just move on and not feel entitled to comment on someone else's decisions on what they do with their property. Yeah, pretty much. But also at the same time, if you mark it up, don't and you have it listed for sale, don't be surprised when you get offers for it. And even then, don't be insulted when you get an offer that's too low. Just politely decline. Customer service. To add to this point, calling overpriced listings market manipulation or attempts at building price memory is just ridiculous. I would agree. I think the only time this, I think this was mentioned in the thread as well, the only time this really comes into play is if someone's like being deceitful in terms of shill bidding or something else, where they pretend that there was a sale of a card to make it look like the card's more expensive than it is, or maybe they bid up another card without the intention to pay from someone else's listing. All right, last one for the episode. Ganosha says the blue label of CGZ slabs does not look good. Or does look good. Does look good. Yeah, I don't know. A lot of people hate the label. Me personally, I just don't like graded cards. But in terms of, I think the cases look fine. Are they any better than PSA or BGS? I don't really have a preference. Whatever. It's a label. Who cares? It's an opinion by somebody that you paid a bunch of money for that probably shouldn't have, unless you're going to get some sort of monetary return out of it. So maybe focus on that more than the color of the label. Whatever's going to be the most profitable, or whatever you like best. If you just really want a graded card, then by all means just go with whatever you think is the better looking option. If you have no intention to sell, if you do want to sell, do your research. Maybe don't grade in 2020 or 2021 because you're going to be overpaying. And you're not going to get it back for a very long time. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. This was a long one. Very long. Leave a comment below. Hashtag Purple Energy if you're still watching. I don't think anyone is at this point, but for those of you that are, thank you very much. And I'll see you in the next one.